The reality is for the Big 12 Conference, if Deion Sanders leaves this league, it is a worst case scenario for the conference. I'm Pete Mundo. We're Heartland College Sports. We are glad you are here joining us as always. As a part of the show, we cover the Big 12. And yes, ever since the news dropped on Monday that Mike McCarthy was out as Cowboys head coach, the speculation around Coach Prime being back in Dallas started taking off. And if you are just joining us, if you are new to the show, we are grateful you are here. Drop that 5-star rating and review on the podcast. Helps us tremendously. I sometimes give you guys a shout out on the Instagram page on our stories when I see a nice review on there. And if you're on YouTube, just checking us out, make sure that you are subscribed. Many of you might think you are, but you're not. So I don't want to see Deion Sanders leave Colorado. Deion Sanders is the biggest star in college football, and that is good for the Big 12. I also am far from convinced that Deion Sanders will work in the NFL. But if there's one job that might make some sense, it's the Dallas Cowboys. If the Dallas Cowboys want to talk to you about their job opening, you would be foolish not to listen. If nothing else, you get a nice raise out of it. And you're seeing some crazy numbers out there, $15 million for Deion to coach the Cowboys. Do they trade up, get Shadur, and, he's coaching his kid again in the NFL? It would be crazy. I admit I don't think it would work, but it doesn't mean it's not enticing. You would be stupid to not be enticed by the possibility of Coach Prime in Dallas with his kid as the quarterback. But if you're looking at this from the standpoint of whether or not it will work, there are plenty of question marks as to whether or not it will work. Now, Deion Sanders, I follow closely as someone who covers the Big 12 Conference over the last several months. And Deion Sanders feels like a guy who was made for college. And I say that out of respect. He seems to genuinely care about young people. He seems to want to mold young men. He does it through a lens of Christ. And while there is plenty of different elements of that you can apply to the NFL, it's never the same. Now, the gray area is certainly grayer than it's ever been. There is no denying that because with the way the college football is going, it's kind of like just the minor leagues now. Guys are getting paid. They're getting their bag. So those lines are now blurred between college and the NFL. It's not like it was, you want to go back to Barry Switzer at Oklahoma. You want to go back to the Bill Snyder days at Kansas State. It's not really just about, I've got a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old young men, and we're going to mold them into grown men. Guys are getting big checks. They're getting millions of dollars off of Instagram videos and reels and YouTube. It's a different world. All right. We all know that. But Deion Sanders, watching a lot of his videos that get posted on social media, behind the scenes, locker room stuff, I'm not seeing, and I don't say this as a knock on him, I'm not seeing how it translates out of the gates. Because yes, the locker room footage is fun, but so much of it is what? So much of it is actually just about the have, the X's, and the O's. It's not just about the Jimmies and the Joes. You can get away with some highly talented dudes that are going to come to play for you because you're Coach Prime, and they probably didn't grow up watching you at this point, if you really think about it, because those kids are too young, which is weird for me to say sitting here in my mid-30s, but you get the point, right? I mean, they know the legend that is Coach Prime, or that is Deion Sanders, and who has become Coach Prime. And in the NFL, is that going to work? Especially if he's coaching his kid at quarterback on the team. That, you think about it like back to your Little League days, and y'all know the dad who coached his kid. He wanted his kid to be the superstar. Like, we all went through that phase of life, right? Or had someone in our life who was in that phase of life. And it's always awkward. It's always a little clunky. Everybody knows what's going on, but you kind of put up with it. The greatest athletes in the world at the NFL level are not going to put up with that. They're not going to let Shadur Sanders be coached by his dad and develop a learning curve with the Dallas Cowboys. That is a disaster waiting to happen. It might work in a place like Carolina, maybe. Not going to work with the Dallas Cowboys. That will be a very short leash. Jerry's going to be doing media interviews saying God knows what. That has disaster written all over it. And Deion Sanders has been very clear, too, that he loves college because he can mold young men. He wants to develop young men. It's not the same in the NFL, and no one knows that as well as Prime, right? He's talked about, and you've seen him in documentaries and on, different videos on social media, talking about how he was flawed as a young man. He was chasing women. He was chasing cars. He was chasing big homes, and he wasn't centrally focused on what mattered in his life or what should have mattered at that point in his life. And that may connect with some guys in the NFL. It might. I mean, some guys might say, you know what? That's a great point. A lot of guys are going to tell him to pound sand, old man. Let's just be honest. They don't want to hear it. They're not going to want to hear it. And if you're not winning in the NFL, none of that matters anyway. And then you get to Deion Sanders and the track record. And there's an eerie similarity between Deion Sanders and Matt Rule, who, of course, went to the NFL after a great little run at Baylor and is now back in college at Nebraska. And it's not meant to be an insult. I think Matt Rule's a very good college coach. That Matt Rule built his brand with one top 25 win during his time at Baylor. One. Deion Sanders has one top 25 win in 2 years at Colorado. And it happened to be his first ever game on the road last year against TCU. A TCU team that actually turned out to be not all that good, but that is the only ranked win that Deion Sanders has in his 25 games coaching the Colorado Buffaloes. Last year, they lost ranked games to Oregon, USC, UCLA, Oregon State, and Arizona. This year in the Big 12, their first year in this conference, they lost their ranked games, and there was only a couple to Kansas State and then BYU in the bowl game. They had a great year. They went 7-2. They were tied for first place in the Big 12, but it was not the toughest schedule you could ever put together. And no one can convince you of that because it's just simply not true. Now, they got teams like we thought the home stretch against Utah and Oklahoma State, 2 of their last 3 games, you looked at that in August and you were like, man, that's a brutal home stretch. You got to play Utah and Oklahoma State 2 of your last 3 games. Well, it turns out Utah stunk and Oklahoma State was even worse. So, kind of worked out in their favor, right? In that case. But Deion Sanders is a guy who, if you're hiring him, if you're Jerry Jones, what exactly are you hiring him for? Outside of the splash, what are you hiring him for? Deion is made for college because the kids pick you, right? They pick you because you're prime. They pick you because suddenly you made Colorado a hot program. And yes, the NIL and the money matters, but they pick you. If you're Jerry Jones, you've got to genuinely ask, what is he bringing to the Dallas Cowboys that they don't currently have? What is missing? What was missing under Mike McCarthy that magically turns around under Deion? I don't know what it could be, to be honest, because I don't think it's there. And for the Big 12, I'm admitting a selfishness here that I don't want to lose this guy because he's the biggest star in college football and he's in our conference. And I don't want to lose him. And I've got to believe Brett Yormark definitely does not want to lose him. Because while the Big 12 doesn't have the blue blood big-time brands right now, and I'll be the first one to admit that as I have all the time on the show, what it does have is the biggest star. And Colorado, based on viewership numbers and ratings, drew the biggest numbers in the entire Big 12 and some of the biggest numbers in the country. And it was because of Deion and, yes, Shadur and Travis Hunter, who won the Heisman Trophy. All those things were part of the equation. And to lose them and lose all 3 when the Big 12 doesn't have that big-time blue blood right now, They don't have that big-time horse that you want to have if you're a conference. It's a lot of what we've talked about on and off during the last couple of shows. The parity is great, but the best thing over the next 5 years for the Big 12 is to develop those 2 or 3 teams that you know are going to be there year in, year out. And we can argue all day long about who those 2 or 3 are going to be. There's probably 7 or 8 that could make the case it's going to be them. But right now, Deion is big time for this conference, and they really need him at a time when they don't have that cachet on the side of the helmet that ESPN wants out of their brands. And that's a big part of this as well. My fear is that if Deion leaves, you think ESPN treats the Big 12 poorly now? Just wait. Just wait to see how this plays out when Deion Sanders is gone. They're going to say, who is that cute little team that made the playoff and almost beat the mighty Shorthorns in the college football playoff? Who are those little guys? They had that little running back fella. You know, he threw a little touchdown pass. That was a nice SC top 10 moment, right? What was that? What was that team? They had that head coach. You know, he looks like he's about 12 years old, little pudgy face. Was it Arizona? Oh, no, it was Arizona. Oh, the other one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Arizona State. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, that was a nice story. We should put him on ESPN2 once in a while. That's my fear for the Big 12 Conference. I do not want to see it go that way. Deion is made right now for college football. He is made for this moment. He is made for young men at that level. He is not, at this point, proven to be somebody who I would trust to be the head coach of an NFL franchise. Do you think Deion's out scheming you? Honestly, I don't. Stick with what you're great at. Now, if Jerry's going to dump you $15 million a year, I understand why you can't say no. But if your mission in life, and Deion's talked about this, is truly about molding young men, you brought in the factor of bringing them to Christ, bringing them closer to Christ, if that is truly something that Deion Sanders cares about, then I don't know if money can change that. And I say that as a capitalist myself. I'm not sitting here saying you shouldn't chase the bag. But Deion Sanders' values here are going to be challenged based on everything he has said publicly thus far about this job, and not even just about Colorado, but about staying at the college level. And it sounds like it will be put to the test, or it very well could be put to the test in the days ahead, because you look at the betting markets and a lot of them all have Deion Sanders with either the first or second best odds to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And we know he's got a very good relationship with the Jones family. What does it actually bring him? Well, that remains to be seen. I'm Pete Mundo. We are Heartland College Sports. We are glad you are here. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. And same thing on the podcast. Leave that 5-star rating and review. We are glad you are here. And we hope you'll check us out soon. Once again, right here on the YouTube channel. Have a great day. And go Big 12 and join our Heartland College Sports forums on the website. They're free. See you later.